Nobody asked for it, but you're all gonna get it. I'm Victoria Rain, and this is my Bathtub Gin review. Today's gin is Phrog Gin. This gin is 43% alcohol and costs about $2 Canadian an ounce. I'm giving this gin a 3 out of 5 on appearance because the bottle is fairly plain. Although it's not unattractive, it doesn't really jump out at me. It's got a regular wooden cork that seals great the first time, but then can get a little bit loose, so you can't lay it down, and that's a problem because the reason I've rated this only a 3 is it's way too tall for a standard liquor cabinet. Now, I luckily have a giant liquor cabinet that has various shelf heights, so it fits in mine, but you might have to leave it out, which will just mean it disappears faster. Let's see if I can get this gin open because my hands are wet. I can't open it. Good news is I have a trusty towel here. Nope, sure can't open it. Gonna need to stop and get my cameraman. And we're back. And thanks to my trusty cameraman, I can now get into this gin. As I said previously, it has a wooden cork, and I'm just gonna pour myself a sample. Oh, it's way easier to get in than out. This gin smells fantastic. It's got a really nice warm juniper smell, although a little bit dry. This gin does have a fair bit of heat, however that warm juniper smell comes all the way up into your mouth as you take your drink. Now, I have rated this gin on the Aaron Knoll scale with a 2 for juniper, a 1 for spice, a 1 for floral. I don't find any citrus in this gin, and I've given it a heat of 2. This gin, as I said, does give you a moderate smell and taste of juniper, and it does have a fairly high heat, and the intensity of the gin is reflected in that heat. It's a little bit earthy, and so I've given it a 1, and I don't know what the other botanicals are that Phrog uses in their gin, but it works great. I give this gin a 4 out of 5 on mixability because it would make a great traditional gin and tonic, and because there's no citrus in the gin, I think it would accept a little bit of lime in there just great. I personally would love to try this gin in a real dirty martini, as I think the juniper and the earthiness of this gin would be greatly enhanced with the addition of the olive brine. I personally don't like vermouth, so I omit the vermouth in my gin, and I think tonight I might make myself a gin martini and replace the vermouth and spritz my glass with some olive brine. I give this gin a 4 out of 5 on mixability and find that you could do a lot in the traditional sense with this gin. Also, a smoky gin would enhance this gin, so if you've got a little favorite scotch at home, spritz your glass with that. However, we are all at home on isolation right now, but maybe when you watch this that'll be lifted. This gin is only available on Hornby Island in British Columbia, Canada, so if you want to add this gin to your collection, you're gonna have to travel. But it's worth the trip. Phrog does have another gin. I'm not sure of the name, but it is not the same as this Phrog Dry Gin that is the Island Edition that you can get at most liquor distributors across Canada. So check that out. I've heard it's fantastic, but it is worth the trip to pick yourself up a bottle of the Phrog Dry Gin on Hornby Island. I'm Victoria Rain, and this is my Bathtub Gin review.